Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, everybody. What a pain in the butt. Okay. Okay. So I wanted to show everyone, I don't know why it's 2 weeks in a row. This is giving me such a hard time. My Zoom usually isn't this bad. So, okay. So I just put in a link that will take you directly to the GSFA Platinum Program rate sheet. And I find that this is really the easiest way to explain programs like this, kind of like what I did with the CalHFA loan. And really they incentivize just based on what you are needing to use, right? So let's break this sheet down a little bit. So the top rates offered are all within government programs. So Ginnie Mae, FHA, USDA, and VA, those are all government insured programs. And then you can see what the interest rate is based on how much assistance you actually need. So if you wanted to use FHA or USDA or VA along with the GSFA program, and you didn't need any help with your down payment assistance, oh, thank you, Robin. Yep. You didn't need any help with your down payment assistance, then you can see that your rate's actually like super good, a 2.375, since rates have started to go up a little bit over the last couple of months, is a phenomenal rate. Now, if you are in one of those government programs and you only need 2% of down payment assistance, then your interest rate is a 2.875. So much like with the CalHFA program, the National Home Buyers Fund or the GSFA program names your interest rate. So it's not like a traditional interest rate that can move up or down or fluctuate. They name it, that's your rate if you fall into that bucket. Now, the requirement for that, like I said, is being a public service member, and I'm going to send you another link here. Oh, thank you. And that's to take you to the website. So it just gives you kind of an idea of, you know, home buyer grants, credit scores, that kind of stuff. Now, everybody is a little bit different. You know, we have to qualify your buyers on my end to make sure they kind of fit into that specific, you know, bucket. And then we take it on to the next level. And we say, okay, now we need to go and talk to GSFA and see how they feel about this loan file. I recently had a situation with the USDA loan where I ran it through the automated system. They said, okay, yeah, we get an approval. But then when it actually touched the underwriter's hands and they saw, you know, some of the things that Gus or Ginnie Mae wasn't actually seeing, like within the credit report, that underwriting wasn't going to pass through, and USDA would have done the same thing. It's not a perfect system when you're running something through an automated system, because the automated system is only as good as the information that we provide and the information that it reads. So I ended up getting some kickback. They said, sorry, you know, based on XYZ, there were workarounds. We were able to get more documentation. You know, we were able to do quite a few things to help her with her approval, but it definitely wasn't like you go through the automated system and suddenly, congratulations, you're approved. It still has to go through some additional checks and balances. But these are some great resources. And not that you need to be the expert. You know, I'm the lender, so obviously this is more my wheelhouse of things that I need to stay up on and stay educated with. And all these programs are different, right? So it's one thing I know that as a lender I could do better is saying, okay, yes, maybe they work in the medical field, but does their side of the medical field, is it included in this? Is it only for RNs, or can it be for phlebotomists or, you know, lab techs or things like that? So there's other caveats within these programs that everybody could, you know, you can't be an expert on all programs. Unfortunately, I wish I could be, because things are constantly changing. So you constantly have to go back in and continue to do research. So, but this is a pretty cool program. If you do know somebody that, you know, is a nurse or fireman or school teacher, you know, especially teachers that could potentially fall under this area median income, which is what I'm going to talk about next. So for purchases and refinances using the GSFA program, you see below 80% AMI. AMI stands for area median income. So for some of my borrowers, it doesn't always necessarily make sense to use a program like this. if they have a lot of income. So let's think about that. So this program works for medical staff, right? Nurses. We know nurses make a really great income, definitely above the area median, say for Yuba County, which is around $60,000 a year for the, total for the household. If you are above that and you need the max amount of assistance that they'll let you do for a conventional loan here with 3%, then your rate's going to be a 4.375, and that's significantly higher than where rates are for your standard buyer today. So in that case, I go, oof, maybe doing something like CalHFA really makes more sense, because with this loan, you really can't back out of it, I believe, for 3 years. So you're kind of stuck in that 4.375 until you have the opportunity to refinance and you've built some equity in your home. But the wonderful thing about GSFA is it's a grant program. It's not necessarily just a down payment assistance program in the terms of that you're borrowing the funds. So it can be forgiven, and you do have an opportunity for that money to essentially be free, but you have to stay in that loan program for a number of years, so you have to pay it back some way or another. You can roll it into your refinance because it was purchase money, even if you don't reach the amount of equity that you would need as a non-first-time home buyer. So that's kind of a cool trick. Same thing we can do with CalHFA if that's something that you want to do later down the line. You use CalHFA loan, you have 3 liens on your property, then you go, oh, dang, but can I go all the way up to 5% LTV? And you can. As long as you can absorb those liens with the acquired interest into your financing, you can roll it all into one and eliminate that additional silent loan that's piggybacked on your first lien. Okay, so as you can tell, if you click down and you're looking through this website, hey, Robin, do you want to scroll down just a little bit for me? You can see there's eligibility requirements, what the available assistant can do for you. Property guidelines. This is something that not a lot of people really think about when they're looking at utilizing some form of down payment assistance or grant program. They are pretty specific, no unique property. Some of them don't allow for manufactured homes, which if you work up in areas maybe like, Oregon House or just up that 20 corridor, you see a lot of manufactured properties up there in the hills. This probably wouldn't be the best program unless they found something stick built. Let's see here. A lot of them are restricted on amount of acreage as well. I know with CalHFA it's 10 acres, but with CalHFA you can get a manufactured home. So it's just those little caveats, those little details as you're trying to get your buyers approved for different programs. You want to get really granular with how I'm reading these things and saying, yes, this is something you can qualify for. So it's not as cut and dry as, hey, I make, a base income. I've been working here X amount of years. I have X amount of dollars in the bank. My credit score is a 740, so on and so forth. Those ideal borrowers, they can take advantage of programs like this, as you've seen with the government percentages. It's like, hey, you don't need help, but you fall into the GSFA Platinum program. Well, we'll benefit you by giving you a killer interest rate. So there are still reasons to use the programs, even if you're not using it for down payment assistance or closing cost assistance. Okay. This little site even allows you to access a credit report, which is pretty cool. Anyway, so any questions for me while I'm going through this? I can see the GSFA Platinum program here. I just clicked on it from the website. And this website's pretty cool because it gives you access to what you can see is a lot of different programs. Let's see here. Another good thing to remember with these programs is they have to be used on primary residences only. They're not to be used for investment properties and that type of program. Like it says, income limits, credit score requirements is a 640. And then depending on the risk layers, they will allow you to go up to 50% to your back-end debt to income ratio, which is pretty cool. Unlike most of the down payment assistance programs, like I said, with CalHFA, you're at a hard stop at 43% back end, which, if you're to compare them, that's really killing about 7% of your purchase value and purchase power. Okay. Any questions so far? Nope. Okay. So does anyone have any questions for me in regards to, what makes up a debt ratio? How do you know if your borrower is going to qualify, or, anything like that? I mean, I can go through it. So there's two ratios there, and both of them are regulated, meaning that different loan programs will allow you to only go so high for either your front end ratio or your back end. So front end ratio is your housing debt. So that's your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And then the second ratio is that housing ratio that made up the first part, plus any additional debts that you have. And those debts are factored in on your credit report. So anything that pops up on your credit report, car payments, credit cards, solar, whatever that may be, we are using those monthly liabilities and adding that in to the front end to create your back end debt ratio. Typically, the front end isn't as big of a deal because most of the time the housing debt is not making up, over 40% of your monthly debt. But in some cases it can, where they go, oh, no, I don't have any debt. I just paid everything off and I really want to get the house I really want. And we go, well, that's wonderful, but the housing debt still has to stay below a certain percentage. And usually it's a little bit of a harder stop with the front end than the back end. They're a little bit more flexible depending on the risk layering within the file. Okay, what else do I have? Yeah.
Someone asked, how do HOA fees affect the debt to income ratio? Is it on the front end, back end? How would that affect it?
Oh, that's a great question. That is considered a housing debt, so that is on the front end.
Thank you.
Of course. Was that in the chat? I didn't see it.
Nick handed it to me.
Oh, hi, Nick. Nice. Excellent question. Another thing to be cognizant of as you're going out there and taking your home buyers to different areas, especially if you're looking at maybe new builds or some of the newer neighborhoods, they tend to have much higher property taxes due to Mello-Roos. You see a little bit more of it in the Lincoln and Roseville area because it's an additional tax added for law enforcement, parks, schools, that kind of thing. It can really make a big difference on qualifying or not. If you have a client who's really shopping at the top of their budget and then they go into a neighborhood that's maybe gated and that doesn't only have an HOA but also has a higher property tax, they could be outside of their debt to income ratio and they could no longer qualify simply based on that. So something to look into while you're taking them to different properties to show. Say, hey, is this an area with a higher tax on their homes? Because it could really make the difference for you guys. And it's pretty easy to find too. You can go on the county website and you can look up that property address under the tax collector and you view their tax bill, and then you can calculate what their tax bill will be based on the purchase price that they're willing to offer on the home. You just get that number, add in all the direct charges, which are typically the Mello-Roos costs, and then you divide it by 12. And that shows what their monthly liability is going to be in terms of property tax. Some of the county websites are a little bit tricky though. They need the parcel number, but I believe you have access to the parcel number on NMLS, or not, sorry, on the MLS, right?
Yes.
I don't have access to MLS. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so you can just literally copy and paste the parcel number. I think Placer, you can use property address to search, but in Yuba County, you need the parcel number. but otherwise it's pretty easy to find. So, so if you have any questions when you're out shopping or looking for that, I'm happy to help. I do that for a lot of my clients. They'll send me property and say, hey, what's the payment scenario on this home? And then I go through, I pull their property tax bill, and I calculate a pretty dead on. I mean, as long as, you know, rates don't fluctuate largely and they don't have to worry about maybe like fire or flood insurance, then I should be pretty darn close. Okay. Let's see here. So I was looking at some of the property guidelines. But it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, for the most part, they're all pretty similar. They can be pretty functional as far as you know, who's eligible for the assistance and who isn't. But if you have somebody that falls into that category, I'd love to speak with them. You know, send them my way. I'll see if it's something that what they're looking for qualifies, and we can go from there.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
No. Well, I don't know what else Miss Cailey wanted to cover today, but I know we have a few other things in mind for some of our next classes, and I'll try and not just have links for you, but we'll try to put together some more information. I know Nick wanted to do a class on buying down interest rates, and so I definitely plan on tapping into that one. So do we want to make that a tentative plan for 2 weeks from now?
Yeah.
Since we kind of wrapped up some programs. Okay, so 2 weeks from now, I'll put a snippet into the chat, and I can I can break down a rate sheet for you and discuss, you know, what it takes to buy them down and really what you're looking at, because if you don't speak that language, you know, it's kind of hard to understand. So, okay, I really appreciate you letting me have the opportunity to speak with you today. If you have any other questions or want to email me one off outside of this, please do so. I'm going to put my email address here in the chat.
Thank you, Cailey, for all your information.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I'm sorry for my technical difficulties. That's something I really need to get. I'm going to have to get it figured out. Cailey.Marshall@pmrloans.com. Oh, and my phone number, if you don't have that as well. Okay. Happy Monday, everybody. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.